Sarah Martinez stepped off the red line at Lake Street and immediately felt the January wind slice through her coat. She'd moved to Chicago from San Diego 3 weeks earlier for a new job, and this was her first real winter. -12 degrees. The kind of cold that makes your lungs hurt when you breathe. Someone at work had mentioned the Pedway, Chicago's underground tunnel system, that supposedly let you walk across downtown without ever going outside. Sarah had seen the small black and gold compass signs marking entrances, but had never ventured down. Today, facing a 6-block walk to meet a friend at Macy's, she decided it was time. She spotted a door near the station marked with that distinctive compass logo and pushed through. Immediately, the howling wind stopped. She was in a basement hallway with fluorescent lights and beige ceiling tiles. Simple enough, right? Just walk underground toward State Street. The hallway stretched ahead, clean and well lit, with a few other people hurrying past. Sarah felt pleased with herself for discovering this secret. She walked for about 2 minutes before reaching an intersection. The compass sign pointed left, so she turned. The hallway changed. The ceiling lowered, exposed pipes ran along the walls, and the lighting became harsher. She kept walking. Another turn, following another compass sign. Now she was in a carpeted section that looked like a hotel lobby. Wait, she thought. Was she inside a building? The decor changed again at the next corner. Bare concrete walls, dingy and institutional. Then suddenly she was looking at storefronts, a coffee shop, a nail salon, like an underground shopping mall. Sarah checked her phone. No signal. Of course, she was underground. She stopped a man in a business suit. "Excuse me, which way to Macy's?" He pointed vaguely ahead. "Just keep following the signs." But the signs were confusing. Sometimes they pointed in opposite directions. Sometimes they disappeared entirely. She walked up a staircase, thinking maybe she should just go back to street level and start over. But at the top she found herself in the middle of what looked like a parking garage. Not street level at all. How far underground was she? She went back down the stairs and tried a different route. The hallway narrowed. The ceiling pressed lower. Pipes lined the walls and dripped condensation. It felt claustrophobic, like a rat maze. She passed what looked like a swimming pool visible through glass windows. That was strange. An underground pool? She kept walking, following signs that seemed to contradict each other. At one point she ended up in a train platform, but it wasn't the Red Line station she'd started from. The Blue Line? How had she gotten here? But before we dive into what happened to Sarah, if you love stories about getting lost in mysterious underground places and discovering hidden layers of cities, then you're in the right place. Because that's exactly what we cover here. And I upload new stories 3 to 4 times every week. So if that interests you, please gently tap the like button and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future uploads. All right, let's get into today's story, which takes place beneath the streets of downtown Chicago, Illinois, in 2025. Here's what Sarah didn't know. The Chicago Pedway isn't one cohesive system. It's a patchwork nightmare that was never centrally planned. The first tunnel was built in 1951 to connect 2 subway lines at Washington and Jackson Boulevard. One simple, straight tunnel. Since then, the Pedway has grown piece by piece, added by individual property owners, with no central coordination. Each building connected its basement to the system independently, which means every section was designed differently, with different aesthetic choices, different signage systems, different layouts. Walking through the Pedway, you can literally feel when you cross from one building's territory to another. The carpets change. The lighting shifts from warm to harsh fluorescent. The smells are different. One moment you're in a gleaming modern corridor with art installations. The next, you're in a dim, crumbling passage that looks abandoned. The signage is inconsistent because different entities own different sections. The city of Chicago technically oversees it, but many passages are privately owned by the buildings they run beneath, which means doors can lock without warning. Sections close at 5 p.m. sharp. Weekend access is completely different from weekday access. Even the official maps barely help because the system is so convoluted that two-dimensional representations don't capture the reality of the three-dimensional maze with its staircases, bridges, and multiple levels. Chicago architecture critic once described the Pedway as a confusing underground labyrinth. That's being kind. Tour guides who lead Pedway walks give participants cards with their phone numbers in case people get lost after the tour ends. They actually use those numbers. People call regularly. Even longtime Chicagoans who commute through the Pedway daily can get hopelessly turned around if they stray from their usual route. One woman took a wrong turn and ended up in the private offices of Leo Burnett Advertising Agency. Another person saw the underground swimming pool Sarah had just passed and later convinced themselves they must have imagined it, because how could there be a pool down here? But there is. Multiple pools, actually, in the various hotels and apartment buildings connected to the system. Keep that detail in mind, about the multiple levels, because it becomes important later. Sarah had been walking for 20 minutes now, and she had no idea where she was. She'd passed through what looked like parts of City Hall, sections of Macy's that felt creepy and abandoned, corridors lined with stained glass that seemed weirdly beautiful, and stretches that smelled strongly of urine where homeless people slept. The demographic of the Pedway changed from block to block. Business professionals in one section, families with children in another, and in the darker stretches, people who clearly used these tunnels as shelter. She tried retracing her steps, but everything looked the same. Fluorescent lights, beige tiles, concrete. She saw a sign that said Prudential Plaza with an arrow, but when she followed it, 3 more signs pointed in 3 different directions. One sign was missing the letter U, so it read PR Dential. Another arrow pointed at what appeared to be a wall. Here's where it gets worse. What Sarah was walking through, this confusing maze of disconnected basement hallways, this is just the top layer. Beneath the Pedway, Chicago hides something most people don't know about. About 20 to 60 feet underground, deeper than the Pedway, run the Red Line and Blue Line subway tunnels. Those opened in 1938, built with New Deal money during the Depression. But go even deeper, another 40 feet down, and you reach something that hasn't been used since 1959. The Chicago Tunnel Company's freight tunnel system. 60 miles of tunnels that once crisscrossed beneath the entire downtown, carrying coal, delivering mail, transporting goods in little electric trains. By the 1950s, newer infrastructure made them obsolete, and they were abandoned, sealed, forgotten. For decades, most Chicagoans had no idea they existed. Until April 13, 1992, when construction workers driving wooden pilings into the Chicago River to repair the Kinsey Street Bridge accidentally punched through the roof of one of those forgotten freight tunnels. The tunnel happened to run directly beneath the river. Water started gushing in. Not just a little water, thousands and thousands of gallons per minute pouring into a tunnel system that connected to basements all across downtown. The flooding was catastrophic. Buildings across the loop saw water surging up from below. The Chicago Board of Trade flooded. City Hall flooded. The Merchandise Mart, the Chicago Tribune offices, the Civic Opera House, all experiencing water rising from tunnels they didn't even know existed beneath them. Downtown Chicago had to be evacuated, tens of thousands of workers sent home. The financial district shut down. Electrical systems shorted out. Elevators stopped working. The city lost power in section after section as water reached electrical infrastructure. The flood caused over $2 billion in damage. Crews worked frantically to plug the hole in the river, but water kept pouring in for days. They eventually sealed it with concrete and installed watertight bulkheads throughout the freight tunnel system to prevent this from ever happening again. Today, those tunnels remain down there, sealed off, inaccessible to the public, monitored by the city. But they're there. A ghost network beneath Chicago's streets, deeper than the subway, deeper than the Pedway, forgotten until disaster reminded everyone they existed. Sarah finally found her way out after 45 minutes of being lost. She emerged into the Macy's store at street level, dazed and disoriented. She never did meet her friend. She'd missed their appointment by half an hour. When she tried to explain where she'd been, her friend, a Chicago native, laughed. "Oh yeah, the Pedway. Everyone gets lost in there the first time. Sometimes the 10th time too." Sarah later learned that recently, viral videos on TikTok and Instagram have been showing people claiming to explore secret tunnels under Chicago, descending through manholes into mysterious passages, even finding underground raves in abandoned spaces. City officials and tunnel experts have debunked most of these videos, saying they're not actually the historic freight tunnels, which are under heavy surveillance and completely sealed. But the videos keep appearing, and people keep watching, because the idea of a secret underground Chicago fascinates everyone. The truth is, you don't need to climb through manholes to experience underground Chicago. The Pedway is right there, accessible to anyone, a genuine maze beneath the city where even the most experienced locals can get turned around. And beneath that, layers and layers of forgotten infrastructure, abandoned tunnels, sealed freight passages, all of it waiting silently under the streets while millions of people walk overhead without knowing it's there. The Chicago Pedway remains one of the city's best-kept secrets and most frustrating mysteries. Whether you believe it's a useful climate-controlled walkway or a confusing underground nightmare depends entirely on whether you've ever tried to actually navigate it. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, I've got another case about hidden infrastructure disasters you need to see. Click the video on your screen right now about the catastrophe that unfolded when workers accidentally breached a forgotten tunnel system. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see ya.